Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
So you know the drill you sent over a fascinating stack of material, and we're here to pull out those golden nuggets.
Right. Looking forward to it.
Today, it's excerpts from 001, The Mission of Majesty, Reclaiming the True Purpose of Mission.
Yes, that one.
And it really brings up a pretty big question, doesn't it?
Certainly does.
Is mission, primarily about getting people to convert?
Or something else.
Or is there maybe a much bigger, more profound purpose underneath it all?
Exactly. That's the core tension it explores.
Forget the surface level stuff. We're going to explore some ideas that could really reshape how you see outreach.
Yeah, what immediately jumps out from this source is how it challenges that purely conversion-focused view.
Right.
It proposes this fundamental shift, understanding mission, first and foremost, as an act of worship.
Worship. Okay.
Directing God's inherent worth, his value, into, every part of life.
Okay, let's dig into that idea of worship then. The text talks about glory, kavod.
Kavod, right, in Hebrew. And it's not just like some vague shimmer.
No, not at all. It's presented as something really substantial, weighty.
Weighty.
Yeah.
Okay, like a core part of who God is.
Yes. Think of it as the sheer significance, the intense gravity of his being.
So the main goal isn't just, counting heads.
No.
But getting hearts oriented toward this incredible weightiness, this glory.
Precisely. And the text really emphasizes this glory isn't something we somehow give to God. It's inherent. It is his nature.
Right.
So our lives, our mission, they become what the source calls a doxological calling.
Doxological calling. Okay, what's that boil down to?
Right. Essentially, it means a life and a mission that's dedicated to showcasing God's inherent majesty to the world.
So, like demonstrating it.
Yes. The core insight here is that our whole lives, not just, say, specific missionary acts, become a kind of living billboard.
Pointing to God's worth.
Exactly. Pointing to God's incredible worth. It completely flips the script,
How so? Well, it moves the focus away from our achievements, our results, towards recognizing and sort of broadcasting God's magnificent reality.
And here's where I found it really gets interesting. The piece argues that when mission is genuinely rooted in this kind of deep worship, it actually sparks an inner transformation in us.
Inside us.
But it doesn't stay put, does it? It radiates outwards.
Exactly. It influences how we interact with people, shapes our communities.
Right. Even cultures.
Potentially, yes. And it's not like a one-time thing.
Bro.
No, the text frames it as a continuous, day-by-day process.
An
alignment.
Alignment with what?
With what it beautifully calls the rhythms of divine grace and beauty.
That's a lovely phrase.
It is, and that's a crucial point. It's not about just ticking off spiritual boxes.
Gotcha.
It's about letting that internal shift, the one fueled by worship, actually mold our daily choices.
So the practical stuff.
Yeah. The source suggests that every action, every word we speak can become evidence of God's presence working in our lives.
Can you give an example? Like, what does that look like?
Well, think about consciously choosing patience when you're feeling frustrated.
Okay. We've all been there.
Right. Or maybe offering help without expecting anything back. Small things.
But those small acts reflect a bigger truth.
That's the idea. And the text suggests that when whole communities embrace this kind of mission, one that looks beyond just human metrics, they have the potential to become these living canvases.
Living canvases.
Yeah, vividly illustrating the story of God's majesty, in action.
So let's make this practical for today. If a faith-based organization wants to actually make this shift, to really prioritize worship in their mission, not just conversions, what does that look like on the ground?
Well, the source material offers some practical direction there.
Good.
It suggests reevaluating outreach efforts to consciously weave elements of worship into community initiatives.
So it's integrated.
Exactly. So whether it's, providing support to those in need or organizing a local event.
Right.
Every act of service becomes an opportunity to demonstrate God's splendor, his glory.
And you also mentioned culture, didn't it? Something about valuing local traditions.
Yes, that's important too. Valuing and celebrating the unique traditions of different communities.
Like their art, music.
Art, music, storytelling, seeing those as genuine expressions of worship.
And these contribute to the bigger mission.
They do. The text underscores that these authentic cultural expressions, if they stem from a place of honoring the divine,
Okay.
they actually enrich and expand the global mission. It makes for a much more vibrant, diverse picture of worship.
So it's not about imposing one single way of doing things.
Definitely not. But it's also important to remember, as the text points out,
What's that?
that adopting this perspective, it isn't like a one-time decision you make. It's an ongoing daily commitment, something consistently guided by grace.
Which brings us back to that core question, doesn't it? What if the primary goal of mission isn't just conversion? What if it's fundamentally about revealing God's radiant glory to everyone, every nation?
The source definitely seems to imply that if we get too fixated on, say, just the numbers of conversions.
Yeah, the metrics.
The metrics, exactly. We might actually miss the bigger, more transformative purpose.
Yeah.
Especially, in our rapidly changing world.
And this really raises a big question about how we define success then.
It does. The text challenges us to think about the profound impact of aligning our lives, even our professional paths.
Our jobs.
Yeah, our careers, aligning them with this ultimate purpose of God's glory.
And what happens when we do that?
Well, it suggests that when we do, we not only redefine what true success looks like, but we also unlock a kind of transformative power in our work, one that has lasting, even eternal significance.
It really shifts our role, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, instead of just feeling like individuals trying to, convince people of specific beliefs, we become, as the text puts it, ambassadors of God's eternal glory.
Ambassadors. I like that.
Yeah. And everything we do, our jobs, our relationships, how we engage with our communities.
Right.
It sort of prompts you to pause in those everyday moments and ask, how could my actions right now actually point towards the goodness and majesty of God?
And what's fascinating there, I think, is that the text highlights how even seemingly small acts.
Like the patience example.
Exactly. Small acts of kindness, when you view them through this lens of revealing God's glory, they contribute to something eternally significant. It's about recognizing the weight, the importance of even the mundane.
The piece then kind of zooms out, looking at the big narratives, creation and salvation.
Yes, arguing that these themselves are prime examples of God putting his glory on display.
Creation itself, how so?
Well, the very act of speaking the universe into existence.
Yeah.
It's not just background scenery in this view.
Right.
It's an intentional, ongoing revelation of God's immense power and, frankly, breathtaking beauty.
An ongoing revelation.
Precisely. And it goes beyond just the initial act. The text suggests that every act of kindness we show, every moment of creativity we engage in, every time we pursue justice, that becomes an expression of God's character shining through us, a reflection of his glory within us.
So it's a very active participation.
Very active in displaying who God is.
And worship then, in this context, it becomes this dynamic back and forth.
Exactly. Not just us receiving, but us echoing back what we've seen and experienced.
The text used that beautiful phrase, echoing the celestial music of creation and redemption.
It did. And then, of course, there's Jesus.
Right.
His life, death, resurrection, presented as the ultimate, the clearest unveiling of God's glory.
Demonstrating his love, mercy, power.
Right in the middle of human history. It's the ultimate manifestation.
Okay, so if we connect that to the bigger picture...
Well, Christ's actions act like a bridge, don't they? Linking the Old Testament story with his new reality of redemption.
Inviting us into something new.
Inviting us to actively participate in a renewed creation. And true worship, as the text emphasizes, isn't just a set of rituals. No. It's presented as a deeply immersive experience, one that connects our hearts directly to this eternal song of praise.
So our worship, the songs, the prayers, the actions...
they become tangible expressions of the glory we've witnessed in Christ.
And it inspires others.
That's the hope. Inspiring others to see and experience that same glory.
So, okay, shifting from the individual, let's talk broader community. How does this focus on divine glory impact cultures, societies?
Well, the text discusses building environments, workplaces, schools, communities that actually reflect these core values of divine glory. Things like integrity, creativity, mutual respect.
That sounds good, but how does that actually happen?
Well, what's insightful is the practical illustration it gives.
Okay.
Imagine a manager designing a workplace, not just for profit maximization.
Right, the bottom line.
But also with a genuine commitment to the well-being of employees.
Yeah.
And implementing ethical practices.
Ah, so that reflects a different understanding of success.
Exactly. A wider, divinely inspired understanding. And the church, the text points out, has a vital role here.
As a community.
As a community where God's glory is actively celebrated, yes, but also shared, transmitted.
Through what?
Through evangelism and discipleship that really centers on God's transformative love, not just rules or doctrines.
It really makes you think about, well, concrete steps, doesn't it?
It does.
For each of us, maybe it means consciously choosing to see every task, no matter how small, as an opportunity to honor God.
A mindset shift.
Definitely. And for our communities, maybe it's about actively sharing this perspective.
Having conversations.
Yeah, open conversations, organizing events that encourage this way of seeing the world.
Recognizing that our lives, together, collectively, play a part.
A crucial part in reflecting God's enduring glory.
And this leads to a really significant point the text highlights towards the end.
Okay, what's that?
Reconsidering our primary focus in mission, going beyond just addressing immediate human needs.
Wait, are you saying meeting human needs isn't important?
No, not at all. Those acts of service are incredibly important, valuable.
Okay.
But the piece offers a kind of caution against a mission that becomes purely centered on human needs.
Why? What's the risk?
Well, the potential pitfall is that this approach can unintentionally lead to a sort of savior complex on our part.
Ah, I see. We become the heroes.
Right. And that can potentially overshadow God's ultimate power to transform lives and situations.
So the ultimate aim then, as the text circles back,
Yes.
is for missions to be a pathway leading to worship.
Inviting people, everyone, every nation, into the fullness of worship where God is truly glorified above everything else.
It's a fundamental shift, isn't it, from just trying to solve problems?
Inviting individuals into this life-changing relationship with the divine. It's deeper.
Right.
And a worship-centered perspective, it redirects our efforts. It moves from merely focusing on, say, saving souls, as vital as that is, to the deeper, more holistic work of transforming hearts.
Transforming hearts.
Yeah. Every outreach initiative, whether it's local or global, becomes a step towards building this vast, eternal chorus of praise.
So the core essence, really,
is fundamentally about God's glory and joyfully inviting others to recognize and worship Him. That's the heart of it.
So, okay, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, the key takeaway from these sources, it really seems to be this significant shift.
A paradigm shift, almost.
Yeah, in how we understand mission. It's not just about conversion rates.
No.
But about something much more expansive, more awe-inspiring.
Which is?
Actively revealing and glorifying God in every aspect of our lives and the world around us.
A much bigger vision.
Definitely. And for you, the learner, always looking to gain knowledge quickly and thoroughly.
Right.
This gives you a completely fresh lens, a new way to view something that might have seemed quite straightforward before.
Yeah, it certainly challenges assumptions. Which leaves us with maybe a final thought for you to consider.
Okay, let's hear it.
How might truly embracing this understanding of mission, this central focus on revealing God's glory through worship,
Yeah.
how might that fundamentally change the way you approach your own life, your work, all your interactions with the world?
That's a big question to chew on.
It is. It's really an invitation, I think, to delve deeper into these implications yourself.
And contemplate how this reframed perspective might shape your own personal journey.
Exactly. Food for thought.